back corner when I'm not presenting.
Listening in.
And listen in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bass University Live here on Tuesday night.
Take a quick break. Watch John Cruz's on the Tokyo rig.
Be a part of the show. Get some chances to win some awesome prizes.
Just Bass You Go. You know, we didn't have that back then. And dude, it could just...
That text thread gives me so much energy. I mean, like I'm dialed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Bass University Live on a Tuesday night. It's great to be back in studio. It's been a whirlwind for me, traveling around fishing a lot, as the whole crew is fishing a lot and scoring a lot of checks, weighing in some nice fish, all of us. So it's great. We're gonna visit that tonight, guys. I just came off of a bunch of tournaments on Oneida, on Cayuga. Having a pretty good run, and we're going to talk about fishing, flipping, and fishing your strengths and all those types of things. So I'm excited to talk about it. It's great to share that with you guys and bring your questions for that stuff and for all the crew. And we're going to have fun talking fishing tonight. And we have Andrew Loberg coming on, fresh off of his MLF win on the California Delta, punching. It's going to be great. It's a great topic. Punching was a factor in one of my finishes up on Lake Champlain, and I was watching the MLF today, and a lot of guys were punching mats. Timmy Horton, I saw him doing it, and it's just such an interesting technique. It's the time of year for it. The grass is maturing, and mats are developing all over the place. So we're going to have fun. We're going to be talking fishing, so get your questions together and come on over and join us. And somebody I'm always happy to have join us. We've got in-house tonight. We got GDP, man. It's good to have you with us.
I'm glad you're here, Pete, because Brian's been picking on me.
That's usually what happens when
He's been
I'm
delivering stressful love,
Yeah,
Pete,
yeah.
Greg. It's just stress combined with love. It comes off harsh sometimes.
That's all right.
When I'm not here, he needs somebody to go to for picking.
Is that
on
what it
him,
is?
You know,
You came
So
back and it just started something.
I'm like a funnel. It comes my way, but when I'm not here, it's got to go somewhere.
Pete's just hot right now. He's deflecting everything, sending it in other directions.
That's the way it's been working, man. It's been a good ride, and you've had a good ride. This finishes up your third season on the Elites.
It does.
And we're going to be talking about that tonight. But
Yeah.
your season's pretty much come to an end.
For the most part, I got one more open I'm going to fish. Trying to squeeze myself into that Classic with a win.
Yes.
That's my only way back to the Classic for this year. I have to win 1,000 Islands, so that's the goal.
Well, Thousand Islands is it's a huge body. Of course, I remember watching you. Man, I'll never forget you going over to that submerged barge system or something.
Yeah.
Jacking
The barge.
those big
Barge.
largemouth on the Elite
Yep.
up there.
Yeah,
you
it was
know?
pretty exciting. It was a good tournament. I think I finished 5th or 6th
Yeah.
in that tournament, something like that. But every time I've been there, I made the cut. For all Elite Series events as far as top 40.
Right.
So it's been good to me. I've learned a lot every year. I keep going back and back. We were there this year. Did pretty good this year, 39th. Just got to squeeze a win out. That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard to get over that hump.
I know it is.
And this could be the one. I love it up there. I haven't been to Thousand Islands for it's got to be 15 years or more.
Wow.
And but for every year, for the first couple of years of my tournament fishing, we would go there. You know, and when we would go, it was pre-Goby.
Oh.
So it was like 15, 16 pounds. You had a strong day, and you were competitive. 15, 16 pounds, man, you're going to be in dead last up there now.
Usually you're not even cutting the check at that weight every day. You ever see that movie Tommy Boy?
Of course.
Like a fat man in a little coat?
Yeah.
That's exactly how the smallmouth look. They literally can't, they can't put their fins in there so fat. I'm not kidding. Wait till you see these fish. I've never seen anything like it.
That's crazy.
Yep.
I look forward to it. Like I said, they were skinny, and I remember, and I'm pretty sure the last time I was there was the 9/11 disaster. We had a tournament scheduled and got canceled at that because that happened while we were up there, and it was like a ghost town and just a horrific thing. But I haven't been back since then. The gobies came. Everything's getting fat.
Yep. It's fun.
We see largemouth playing a little bit. You made them play.
I did, yep.
Brock Mosley took a
he
monster second place finish that one year on largemouth.
Yep.
I would love to just one day just go up there and fish for largemouth and just not even think about smallmouth.
I've done it a little bit in practice itself.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, once you find them in the grassy areas, wherever you're catching them at, it's just like every cast. It's stupid.
Yeah.
It's fun.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, it'll be cool. We'll be up there together. And, of course, we'll be live from the Opens on Tuesday night as usual. We had it was great, lucky live from the Opens on last Tuesday night. I stayed at the out on NIDA, and everybody in the Bass University house just crushed them. So it was maybe hopefully that happens again this year.
It should. I think so.
Or this week at the Open. But we got Riz, we got BTC, got us up and running. BTC, everything sounds good. Except for your mic.
Or does it?
we hear it now. But you've been busy. You had a nice, strong finish. We're going to talk about that tonight, man. You're fresh off of a second-place finish this weekend.
That's right, Pete. Hang on one second. Oh, jeez. Audio echo?
Audio echo. You sound good to me.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
No echo here.
Oh, just remember, you guys have no clue what's being pumped out.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, thanks for your input. But
See what I mean, guys?
I mean, yeah.
Well, we'll talk. We're going to talk about.
We're going
his
to get into that.
second-place
Yeah.
finish tonight, and look forward to that.
And Justin Kimmel.
And we got Justin Kimmel, professional fish head, program manager at Bass U. What's going on, JK? I know we talk business all day, but tonight we get to talk fishing.
I know nobody's gonna let me talk fishing. I'm so excited to hear how you caught them again at Cayuga. First time you've been there in 8 years or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, and you didn't. I remember Pete's practice went like this. Friday he goes up there. He's calling me at 10:30. He hadn't even put the boat on the water yet. So you didn't even get a full day of practice. You got a clue. I can't wait to hear how you did it tonight. And I don't know if I'm allowed to give away prizes. That's usually Riz's job. But the grease trap on the message board, he took the words out of my mouth. Somebody hook him up. He said, Pete is on a heater. Dude, you are on a heater. 4 straight tournaments. Let me see if I get this right, because it's 4 now. You got Toyota Series at Champlain. You got 13th. You went back to the BFL at Champlain. You got 4th and 1 big bass. Then you went to Oneida, which has always kicked your butt, and you kicked its butt, got 15th place. And that was the Bass Open. And then, what was this? Another BFL at Cayuga, and you got 4th and almost won big bass again, Pete.
It's been a heater. I was talking to GDP, and, I've had some experience, like when you win, this is the kind of way it feels. But it doesn't happen that much. But it's like, I just feel like everywhere I throw is going to be a 4-pounder. It's,
oh my God.
it's, and it's just crazy. It's been a great run. And I tell you what, it's been really cool is fishing the BFLs. And I owe this to you, JK, because we were talking about, the All-American and we looked at the schedule, and the regional for us is for the BFLs is on the Potomac, and I love it there. And you're going to qualify for your regional. I think you may have already qualified. And wouldn't it be cool if a bunch of the Bass you guys made the regional? So I signed up for some, and it's been awesome. They run a great tournament trail. Love the guys at the BFL, the tournament directors and people running the show. I love the competitors that are there. We were talking about George Hutchinson just a little while ago, who, I've been fishing against him and his team on the federation level for almost 30 years. It's almost 30 years ago I met George Hutchinson for the first time, and he's still doing it. He's with his grandson. who's a grown man, they're out running all kinds of tournament shows. So you see guys like that, guys like Mark Schaefer, who we had on the show.
30 years ago, Greg DePalma's fiance was born. He was actually there, helped deliver. That right, Greg?
Yeah, that's right, Brian. Brian was
You cut the
doctor.
cord?
I did. That's kind of weird, Brian.
Hey, you told me, dude.
Well, I'm telling you, I've been doing this a long time, and I know we make fun of how old I am, but there's guys. I mean, it's so cool to see them. But here's what's awesome, BTC, is the new wave of anglers like Riz, the super talented guys. You see them. Riz is dominating down here on the Chesapeake, and up on the BFLs. I see all these young guys with the forward-facing sonar, electronics out the yin yang doing well. I don't even know who they are. I've not met them yet, but you can see all the progression of all the new guys, diving into the sport, and it's right there. It's all there at the BFL. So it's been a blast. Plus, I think they tailor-made the schedule for me. I mean, they picked 4 or 5 of my favorite lakes and said go, and I said okay.
But you hadn't even been to them in a while, Pete. I mean, here you are, and this is no small task in any BFL division, but the participation is at an all-time high for your region, for most all BFL regions in America right now. And you're winning the AOI race with one tournament to go, 58 points or something like that.
Pete.
Since Pete.
Yeah, it's been great. It's this one on Cayuga was it's just kind of you're on a roll when I go to Oneida, where I have never finished higher than 190th place, and I have a good finish. That's when you kind of all right. Well, I'm getting a little lucky here. Things are going my way. But the Cayuga tournament was cool because I didn't think I could make it. We had to do filming for Bash U. I had on-water training. There was no time. So Friday, I just got up at 3:30, and I decided at 3:30 in the morning on Friday I'm going.
Good decision.
And I drove up. I got to the launch ramp at Cayuga at Union Springs, and I called FLW. I said, can I still enter? I didn't even know if I could get in.
Wow.
But they had a list of – I just took a chance. I thought worst case scenario, I'll just get to practice the lake for the next tournament,
Yeah.
And I'll just spend a day fishing. But anyway, I was able to, get into the tournament and, got 7 bites at practice, which was enough to kind of let me know what I was going to do. And then, like I said, that lake is unbelievable, man. They're just big.
When did you win there? 11, 12? What year was it?
12.
12. So how much has it changed from then till now? In your opinion, like what do you?
We talking 1912?
whatever 12 it was.
Yeah, it was
12 AD.
it was 1280 originally. But
you were working with Moses, dude. That's not fair.
Getting information.
Yeah, Moses parting seas. And he had him.
Which way'd you send them, bud? Left or right?
They were stockpiled.
Well, I can tell you it has changed. The biggest change, and it was the talk of the tournament, was the Army Corps of Engineers came in, and the boating channel was choked off, and they eradicated the grass.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so there's like the whole northern section, the grass was this tall or non-existent in a lot of places.
So there was like rows, more or less? Was there like lanes going through it? Or?
GDP, I'm flat out honest with you, I did not get to look at it all.
Gotcha.
Right? So I went up to where I normally see big, tall grass, and it was like somebody just took a mower and just gone. And I'm like, man, it's usually grass from here to the bank, and it's just not there. So what I started doing was just driving around to find the best grass I could find. And it was, down in the more of the central part of the lake where there was no poisoning going on with the grass. So that was the big difference, right? The absence of habitat. And with that came a really challenging bite. We tell this story. We had tournaments in the Federation days. We had like 250 guys, and it's the only time in any tournament I've ever fished, everybody caught a limit. And it happened.
That's a lot of limits.
It happened on Cayuga. Like there was so many fish, such an abundance of fish. Didn't fish like that, this time.
Yep.
I got 7 bites on tournament day. You know, it was a challenge. You know, the easy flipping fish or weren't available, and the topwater. It was challenging.
Yeah.
You know, to get the bites.
So, did you find them in the grass, Pete? I knew that you were going to go look for grass fish.
I found, one of the fish that I wound up weighing in came out of the grass. It was a smallmouth. Oddly enough, it was.
Yeah.
We were fishing good. That's what I did for the tournament. I found good grass, and I ran those grass edges during the tournament because the tournament day was really my first full practice day. I felt, and I got a good smallmouth doing that. But other than that, like when I won, that was huge for me. Like that grass, that flipping bite, getting a good limit in the boat, and then I could go shallow and do my thing shallow and maybe call if I had a good day, and I did that a few times. But here it was different, and I had to I got shallow early, and I was catching fish. I caught a big fish off of a willow bush in 6 inches of water.
Really?
Yep. And everything was shallow. Everything I caught was like this deep. And
really,
and that was key because those docks there, Riz, they're shallow as it is.
Yeah. Like freak you out kind of shallow.
Freak you out kind of shallow. Well, I had to run the Minn Kota into the rocks to be able to get shallow enough to where I needed to cast. And
wow,
these fish have been shallow since I was there, and I was getting bites shallow when I was there, and I thought I was chasing ghosts.
Right.
I was like, this can't be right. Like this can't be.
There's something about that lake, though, why them fish do. I don't know why, but them fish on that lake in particular, they get really shallow.
Yeah.
A lot of them do.
They're not scared of it. I mean, those big ones definitely got up there. I got so to where I wasn't even casting to the fronts of the docks. Like, which is normally, you could go up there and you could fish a dock, and sometimes 5 of them would come out and attack your stick bait. And but I would just skip the fronts, and I was going to the back. And,
shallowest part.
Yeah, the most complicated, shallowest piece that you could find. And, that's where it all went down up there.
Kidding.
Wow. I've always heard, being traveling the country with seminars with all the best guys, it's always the ones that aren't from your region, that tell me you will not believe how shallow those largemouth will get up north. And I guess this is kind of what they're talking about. That's such a weird scenario. I always thought that, it had to be like a grass situation or something, to bring them up there. But man, you're talking docks and stuff.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because I don't think they're up there for comfort. They got to be feeding because everyone that you caught was a flat out butterball. Like they were at their maximum weight capacity. Their bellies were full. Their shoulders were big. It's not like they were just sitting up there killing time. They must have a forage base up there or something. But
you see snakes?
What's that, JK?
Did you see any snakes?
Like
Sanko.
I didn't see it. I didn't see any snakes. I didn't see. I thought I called pickerel snakes, but we did see some of those. But I will tell you this: like I was very fortunate, and that your derby's going your way, because I was skipping a combination. I was using a weightless stick bait or the Dean's rig, where I put that VMC half moon weight in the tail. So if I needed it to get down or get into the grass, I was using the tail weight. And when I was uber shallow, I was weightless because you needed to skip. If you could see where your bait landed, where it finished skipping, never got a bite.
Wasn't enough.
It wasn't far enough.
You had to get all the way to the underback, then into the docks, like just way in the back.
Out of your sight. Because it seemed like if they could see.
I mean, how shallow do you think those fish really were sitting in? Like 8 inches? Like
legit enough water to cover their backs, but it was a short swim to a foot of water or 2 foot of water. You know what I mean? They were.
But there had to be some kind of cover that they were using. You're saying too, though, right?
Yes.
What do you think?
We see these fish. You were skipping back into some stuff that's sitting in there, and all of a sudden, they got it.
And here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing. That's
exciting.
If
crazy.
I could see my bait, the bass wouldn't bite. this is because they could see me.
No doubt.
Yep.
So
Right.
you had to stay way back.
I
or
had
set your angles up.
I had to jump those fish. They had to get a bait that they didn't expect to come. Like if they saw me at all, like this one time in particular, I was fishing a dock. It was a shallow, like very plain dock, and I threw in, and I work it out, and I'm reeling it up, and out comes a 5-pounder on it, you know, and I'm just, I froze, and that bait's just quivering, just doing what it does, and I'm like, oh, this fish is smoked, and the bait hits the bottom. He's down on it, and I'm like, come on, man. So I twitched it, and he'd come down on it, and then I twitched it again, and he got crazy eyes and swam away.
Oh man.
Right? He saw me, I saw him. That fish is not getting caught. You know, it's like those fish are like in that clear water, hyper aware of your presence, and
So is that the winning fish?
no, it was if I could have executed on that
yeah.
fish, but you know, I had two key ones, and I'll start out with the good one, and I'll give you the bad one. But the good one was me and Soli stayed at a place, and there was an old wooden dock system outside of the cabin that we rented, and I remember I caught a 3-pounder off there at the one tournament I won, and so I wanted to go back and visit that row, and I skipped like an absolute tragic hero cast. Like, I know I get bit, I got a 50-50.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I rip that baby up there, and it comes to the end of the cast. I can't see it, I can feel it, and it goes donk. I got to come back over top. 4 metal members, a couple wooden beams, and poles everywhere. I set on this fish, and I get him over. I can't see how big it is. He's too far under. But I got him coming over the beam, over there, and I get him over all the cross members, and now I just got 2 poles that I got, and he bangs left, goes around the pole and around a metal beam.
Oh my gosh!
And I'm just now. Here's the big deal,
Did
guys.
you see it yet, though, at this point? Or not
I
yet?
know. He's like in the shade,
That's
and
the
I'm at a
best case
bad sun
scenario.
angle. I can see a tail. I can see a boil. I suspect it's a decent fish, but I have no idea, honestly, yet. So, but I've got 15-pound gamma braid, and I'm tied to a 16-pound gamma edge fluoro leader. So I'm going weightless, but I'm beefed up.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
Yep.
Just for this case, because all the metal and all the crap. And so I hold, and now I'm starting to ease my boat towards where the fish is, and I just keep pressure, and the things happen that aren't supposed to happen, but he swam over top of the metal beam, and with some pressure, he swam around the piling just enough where I could bear up on him and drag him out into the open water, and then I could see him. And then I about had a heart attack because it was 6-1.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh my God.
Wow. You got lucky.
A 6-1 come through all
Holy
that crap. Shout out to Gamma Line. I mean, that was an amazing job.
That's a good story.
And yeah, we got him in the net, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, God almighty, it's the biggest fish I've caught this year.
Yeah.
And I was calling them near 7 pounds because it's so fat.
Yep.
But they're short.
Oh, man.
So he came in at 6-1.
Wow.
So that fish gets caught, and that gives me 4 fish for about 17 pounds.
Man, you got lucky.
Shallow,
That's
dude.
So hard to
Shallow.
do. Through all that stuff, don't do the whole way out. Oh, man.
When it's going your way, it's going your way. It's like,
Well, it didn't all. Here's what happened next, right? I did another hero cast, and I caught my limit fish.
Pete's Hero Cast.
And
Did you retie after?
Nah, why retire?
Oh, Pete.
Pete, no.
Forget about it. He ain't out of retire. I mean, that one came in. He got it.
you know what's funny, Brian,
worry
that you
about
say that? Because when I caught that 6, I'm like, I have this thing that I do, and I teach people, like, you grab your hook and you pull, right? And, if it breaks, you retie. If it doesn't break, you can you keep fishing. I felt my line. There was no abrasion. And my leader knot was good. My knot to my hook was good. and I made a cast, and I'm like, I reeled that cast right in. And I'm like, no, you're retying this leader, you're retying the whole system.
So you did retie.
I'd retie.
Okay. Oh my God, I was about to drop the headset.
I'm like, there's no way if you're gonna if you broke off a fish, you would just kill yourself. You would be on suicide watch, for not retying. So anyway, I retied. I wound up getting my fifth fish. I had like 20 pounds, 3 ounces, and but I got a keeper. I got like a 2-pounder in the box.
Wow, with 20.
Yeah.
Wow.
And everything was big. Like you said, the hook is big. So I reel off a skip cast way back in there. It's just kind of the way you think you need to go. The woman on the dock's hollering at me for getting too close and violating her property line. And
let's talk about that.
and I'm being congenial. I'm like
Pete.
I'm backing my boat off. Her dock as I start to I pop the bait. I pop it again, but I'm keeping it in there but now I'm kind of in a good spot because my boat's moving away from the fish, and I'm going to be able to bear up a good hook set.
Yeah.
And I do boom the cash and just loads up. But I had a
I love it.
I was over a beam, right? And I don't know if it's metal or wood, but I'm over something because I could feel it, and you feel it pop, and I'm like, oh, was that my line? No, nope, I got him. And I get him over that beam, get him around the pilings, get him through these vertical slats. I can't see any of this, right? My cast is way in there.
Is this like the next cast after the 6th? Like it's right after?
No, this is an hour later.
Okay.
This is I got an hour left in the tournament.
Okay.
Oh my God.
And I get the fish out, open water, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a 5-pounder. It's like another giant. And I'm like, man, this is going to give me 2 3/4, 3 pounds, And I got her coming. She's hollering at me, and I'm like, yes, ma'am. And the fish is coming, and he just does this weird underwater somersault, and bink, the hook comes out.
Are you kidding me?
Dude, it just came unpinned.
You know what's crazy about that story, real quick? Whenever I think I got them, they come off. You ever think about that?
Yeah,
It just happens
right?
so
That
many
lady
times.
is so lucky it wasn't Ike that lost that fish.
Oh man.
Or her dog.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That
It's
sucks.
lucky it was
Yep.
Pete.
Yep. But I felt like, and you're not gonna. It's fishing. You're not gonna catch them all, even on a high percentage rig like that. I felt like
And you were Texas rigging, right?
I was
Just
Texas
weightless
rigging.
Texan. Okay.
Yep. And I felt like because when I set the hook, I was over a beam or some kind of thing that I didn't get a solid direct me to fish, hook set, and that I feel like is probably what happened. I can't fault myself. I mean, I did everything as I would tell myself to do.
And that water's super clear.
You could see 10 feet to the bottom.
And you got a 16-pound leader.
16-pound leader. Yep.
Right on.
Yep. And
Sounds like you need that though.
Oh,
Fishing
yeah,
the way
yeah,
that
yeah.
you're.
Here's the thing.
You were getting bit.
I may have not gotten a few bites because of it, right? Like that 1 5-pounder that nosed down on it.
Right.
Was that a line thing? Maybe. But there's no way I'm catching that 6-1.
Right, if you're
I'm
using 10.
8-pound
Yeah.
or 10-pound test, that
Right.
fish is gone.
Right.
Just
Broken.
not happening. So I felt like I got to jump them, right? When you make a good skip and it's quiet, silent, and boom, and just lands, it triggers them.
Yeah.
Right? It gets them right there. So you could have 20-pound test on when that happens, and boom, you'll get the bite. So that's what I felt like I had to do in that tournament is stop trying to beg them to bite and just focus on the reaction.
The ones that
And
wanna
just hit as many of those things as you can. I had the Minn Kota on high and just just go, and just try to trip as many of them as I could.
Yeah, that's awesome, Pete.
That is
That's
good. That's good stuff.
That is power finesse. My question, Pete, is you just weighed in 30 bass the last 4 tournaments, six tournament days. 30 bass were weighed in by the dean. How many of those 30 were weighed in on a Cinco?
100%.
Legit question. I really want to know this.
Oh, I'm going to give you a legit answer. It's a high percentage.
We know this.
Yeah, but I got to say it's 100%, right? Cayuga.
That's pretty amazing, actually.
Oneida.
I'm impressed.
Saturday fish at Champlain, but they must have got cold out.
Yeah, well, I did. It's like I'm not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything, but it was all different. Like I rig them completely different. So
if I were you, I would sell everything in your boat but Senkos.
For the Champlain tournament, I think it was all about flipping in Oneida. The Champlain tournaments in Oneida, it was about flipping. It was using 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce bullet sinkers. I could have I was Senkos, yeah, but I could
like it.
I could have probably got away with a beaver style bait or another creature bait, but it's in my wheelhouse. So that was all flipping. It wasn't until really Cayuga where I broke out the spinning rod that had such a big roll. And that was mainly because I couldn't get them to trigger on the flipping bite. But I told you this, JK, and I recommend everybody does this because it's helped me tremendously, and it's helped me in these tournaments, that identifying your strength as such an important part of becoming a good angler. Mm-hmm. And I went back through my tournaments, and I realized that all my wins and all my top tens, I've got a flipping rod in my hand. It's it's something I'm extremely comfortable with. I can do it through the doldrums when you're not getting bit and stay focused and confident. It's a way to get big ones. It allows you to punch in heavy cover.
You just nailed something right there. Is the keeping a rod in your hand that you can continue to fish effectively while you're not getting bit, to get that one bite during the window where they're not biting good. And that's a huge thing because, I mean, I find myself doing it all the time. And you know, in the last couple of years, one of the things when I get in those modes where I'm not getting bit, I ask myself a question, and I say, am I doing dumb stuff, or am I fishing stuff that I think I can get a bite on?
Yeah.
And if I'm doing dumb stuff, I'm not going to get a bite because I'm changing constantly.
But
if you just keep a bait in your hand the whole time that you're going through that bad bite window, and like you said, stay focused because it's something that you're comfortable with, that's huge, man. You really tapped into something right there.
Because you lose confidence quick. Like if you're out topwater fishing and it's not your thing, you know, you're going to try it and then you're going to bail on it early, probably
and then
too
start
early.
throwing a mag draft and then, and you know some. Never mind.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: you got to find
making stuff up, some Japanese stuff, or just put the weight on the wrong end and whatever.
You got to find your wheelhouse. You got to find your strength, and then you take your strength and you apply it wherever you go. You try to instead of chasing the bite or chasing what the guys did on the Elite Tour or whatever, you start looking for the bites that are in your strength wheelhouse. And if you find them, you're like, all right, well, this might not be the dominant pattern, but it's my strength.
Yep.
So I might not get as many bites, but I'm going to be competitive if I can make this work.
Rich is about to go run laps or do push-ups or something. What's up, dude?
Because I'm thinking about Cayuga here. Like, I was there, you know, not too long ago, a month or so ago, and I had a bad tournament, like bad. And I did exactly what you're just saying. I went chasing other patterns that if I would have just stuck to my guns and, you know, believed that the fish I was catching shallow was real, I probably could have done something. But I got stuck in the dock talk and hearing what other guys are doing and how the fish should be biting. And like one of the things that, you know, it rings so true, and it's in one of our seminars. It's one of Brandon Polinick's. I can't remember if it's the percentage triangle or if it's mentally winning bass tournaments, but he says the fish are always where you find them. They are where you find them. And in this instance, you had minimal practice, and you found them way up shallow in the backs of docks, in the gnarliest cover, in 8 inches of water on a lake where if you were to watch the Bassmaster Elite Series, reruns, you're going to see fighter flipping in 10 feet of water.
Yep.
You're going to see guys throwing drop shots in holes in 8 to 10 foot of grass out in the middle of the north end of the lake. But you just went and did what the fish told you was going on. They were where they were, and you executed on enough of them to have a great tournament. You know, it's
I want to bring back an interview that has impacted me. Is the John Sokup interview I did from the MPFL, and
Which one?
the
The one-on-one
Yep.
you did, the Dean's?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, the winner circle.
Winner
It was
circle.
one of the winner circle. Well, I did two of them with him, right? He's won twice.
Yeah.
But he said something to me like Mike coined the phrase "fish the moment," and that's a great phrase. But when you marry that with what John says is, don't ever take practice out of your tournament. And I'm like,
Yep.
wow, that's
right.
Go ahead with that.
that's a powerful statement, because you don't want to practice and then quit practice. Just go fish your practice. You want to constantly be developing
Right.
what's happening on the body and be open to it.
Yeah.
Be open to new water. Be open to a new bite, a developing pattern. And if you're constantly fishing your practice, you're going to never see the developing pattern.
right.
And so
Justin, I feel like that's something that you've harped on that a lot to me in just our conversations of that your co-angling history, when you translate it to the front of the boat, you will scrap things and make adjustments so quickly because you've had to do it from the back, and now that's translating to the front of the boat, and it's essentially that. You're adjusting with the fish, and you're continuing to change as things change, because it happens by the minute. It's
The funny thing is, I learned something too. It's funny that we're sitting here. I think the last time, a couple of shows ago, that Greg and I were on together, he was like, "Are you going to fish the front of the boat?" And I was like, "Well, I might go back to the back." And here I am back on the front again. But I won that tournament because of a decision like that, right? I had another top 5 doing the same thing, and then I go to Eufaula, and I made the wrong decision because I scrapped something that was the winning fish, no doubt, in that tournament. It was a very low weight tournament. The next morning, I went back to that spot and popped the quickest 19 or 20 pounds that I've ever popped, like in an hour and a half. But the decision that I made was to leave and then try to come back. And of course, I couldn't get back on it, but I left. What the real decision should have been was to change more techniques to figure out the mood of the fish there. So I think that's where I have to grow and recognize, am I in a pattern situation? Am I fishing for singles along stretches, like what Pete how he won and how he just finished the top at Cayuga? He didn't have like an area of where they were all right there. And that's what I had found at Eufaula. I had found a spot with a lot of fish on it. And I should have given them more time. So, that brings up a good point. I'm by no means the master of that yet, but we're learning.
Well, you've done amazing adjustments as a co, and it changes when all the decisions are yours, but you're doing a nice job this year, and we're looking for continued great stuff coming. But John nailed it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that just resonated. It's like, wait a minute. If I was at practice, I would go fish that grass point, right? And that's exactly what I did at Cayuga. Like, I was in the tournament, and I'm like, well, I didn't fish this or even look at it during practice, but it's a good grass point on a primary lake point. And I caught a 4.5 pound smallmouth, and my partner caught a nice smallmouth. Just practice fishing during the event, And you got to keep that. You just got to keep looking and trying and strategizing, and it doesn't stop. That practice should never stop until the time runs out on the last day, Yep. And so that was big. Thanks, John. Great interview, guys. Go check it out. John Sokup and the Winner's Circle at Bash
It's
TV.
actually not going to the one you're talking about is not released until next week. Sorry, Pete.
Well, we talked to him. We've heard it.
Well,
But guys, stay
another
tuned.
one.
Yep.
www.bashu.tv. If you're not a member, now's a great time to get signed up. During the Frog Days of promotion, Frog Days of summer, it's the last day to take advantage of that. Get unlimited access to over 900 bass fishing instructional videos, including the one we've been talking about from John Sukup, where you don't stop practicing. You just keep fishing the moment and keep catching them.
That's right. And guys, we got so much going on at Bashu. Empire Covers, go check it out. 15% off Empire Covers. Use the code BASSU21. Doesn't matter if you have a camper, a jet ski, a bass boat. They make amazing covers. And if you're a subscriber to Bashu TV, use that code, and you're going to get 15% off your cover. And we've got so many other good stuff. We've got, I got so excited. Everybody's talking to me about Cayuga. I'm super pumped. So we skipped through a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Riz.
like the promotions in the first commercial break at 7:15.
It was good stuff, though.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Agreed.
It was fun. It was fun talking about it. But Riz, what else do we got going on tonight?
Yeah, so as always, we got a grand prize going out the door. That's over $100 worth of tackle and swag pack and Bash University gear and stuff from our sponsors like Minn Kota, Tackle Warehouse, Humminbird. You can see it laid out there on the table. And also during tonight's show, we have a Facebook like and share.
And for that like and share, we have was it 7 pounds of Pete's used Senkos from the last few events?
Yes, that's right. And they are signed. Each Senko is signed individually by Pete. But no, we have a Facebook like and share going on as well. That's over $50 worth of tackle and Bash University gear. All you got to do is like and share tonight's feed, get entered in for a chance to win that. And that pack also includes a WeGo. It's a pretty cool little device there. Keeps your accessories charged while you're out there on the water.
It will jumpstart your boat.
It will jumpstart your boat.
That one might not, but yeah, some of them do.
Some WeGos will jumpstart your boat.
That one will start your watch and your
phone. Yep. But that's cool. You never. It's a terrible feeling to have a dead phone battery when you're out on the water. So that WeGo is going to keep you going there. And also, guys, for a couple questions that we used during tonight's show, they're going to get a $25 gift certificate to our guys over at Gill's Gear. If you haven't checked them out, give them a look. They make awesome clothes, awesome performance wear to keep you cool while you're out there on the water. Some of the other companies that we work with always have great discounts for our subscribing members. And one of the cool ones is Flambeau. Guys, hunting season is right around the corner. If you're a waterfowl guy, you're starting to think about September goose decoys. Guys, Flambeau, you can practically double your spread for 40% off, guys. It pays to be a Bash University TV member on top of all the other benefits we have with companies like Rapala, Missile Baits, Cash and Rods, Empire Covers, Gill's Gear. If you haven't checked it out, get signed up. Now's a great time to join the Bashu family.
Go over to the pro member offers on bashu.com, and you'll see all of these great benefits that are available to you guys. And if you're just tuning in, we got Andrew Loberg coming on in just a little bit. He's just won MLF at the California Delta. Really interesting. It's on my bucket list. I've not ever been there, and it's such an awesome fishery. Can't wait to hear how that all went down. What do you want to take some IMs before we go to break, BTC? What do you want to do?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple I can go with here for you. One of the questions that stood out to me, because we're on the flipping topic, is Mr. Higgs wants to know, Pete, what kind of situations would you use a tube, flipping a tube in, rather than a Senko or a traditional flipping style bait?
Well, it's great. I remember flipping a tube was a big deal, back in the 1800s when I started.
Yep.
I caught a lunker down on Lake Russell in Georgia, 7-1 or something, flipping a tube when it was red hot, and people have gotten away from that. But here's the bottom line: a tube is a shape that really triggers a lot of bites, and it will draw bites like when the jig bite is a little bit overbearing, when you need to downsize. That's a great time to be flipping a tube. That's really why it was designed. I remember Larry Nixon had a great quote. He's like, man, when I'm flipping a tube, I just get more bites than I would if I was flipping a jig. And that's one of the big deals of it. It has a spiral fall. It can trigger strikes that way. I like to flip stick bait a lot because when you peg that sinker, it does something really cool. You would think it goes straight to the bottom, but it's erratic and it's super fast. And in August, in the hot water months, I like a fast rate of descent, but. Don't sleep on that tube, man. It's a good flipping bait. Do you flip a tube?
I haven't done it in a while, but I used to always flip tubes and pads. Yep. Always. You know.
Why pads specifically?
I don't know why. One time I picked it up years ago, and I started doing it, man. It was like night and day difference. I started catching them. It just goes right through everything you put it into. I kind of steered away just because I just haven't done it.
Yep.
I stopped fishing Delaware River. I stopped fishing local lakes here in South Jersey for the most part.
You know why I think it is?
Why's that?
The beaver style bait was the death of the tube.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
mean,
think
that's usually all I flip now is beaver style baits.
Yeah. I think because it's similar, right? It's short, compact, just like a tube.
Yep.
It got super popular, and I think the beaver killed the tube.
I think you're right because that's about when the beaver kind of came out when I stopped doing it.
Yeah.
But it was, dude, I just caught so many fish while doing
We talk about the Bieber?
The Bieber, Justin.
The believer.
Yeah. Tubes used to be really bad for hookup ratio.
Well, I mean,
a lot of guys struggle with that.
Yeah.
The hookup ratio. You're right, BTC, and that is a problem. I used an offset round bend, and I would always come around the tube and skin hook it on the top or the side.
Me too.
That got my strike to catch way up there where it needed to be. But a lot of guys, it seemed like the guys that had trouble that were going right through the central part of the tube using the EWG style or any style. They were having, it's a lot of plastic.
Yeah.
It gets wadded up on the hook, so the strike to catch is a little tricky.
JK, you throw tube much?
No, I wanted to try and apply it. The last 2 years I've been on a couple of on-water shoots with guys who still have, top-level guys who still win a lot of money on tubes. They just don't like to talk about it. The thing I'm seeing most is that trocar hook, that tube hook. Like it's almost like a circle hook, It's just called a trocar flipping tube hook. I've seen that a lot, and the guys, and I know Bill Lowen did this too. He flips with a wide gap.
Yep.
They always have the nose of the hook, the eye of the hook out. They don't tuck it up in the plastic. It's always out of the tube. So that's the tube's right here and your line ties right here on your eye. So it's out and exposed. And he said that's a big deal. And then a lot of them will cut the slit in the tube for that wide gap hook to go up in, and then they tuck it, Texas rig in it, and that gives it an easier play. But I do know some guys like that tube hook. Learned a lot of different tricks on these travels. I know one guy, and I won't give his name up. He likes pegging his weight like that much above the weight.
He reverse pegs it, puts the peg underneath.
Reverse pegs.
He
No.
reverse pegs it like.
What are we talking about?
No, he just leaves a little room. He just leaves a little room.
And what that'll do is it causes the tube to have a really unique fall that he really likes.
Yep.
It's not like a spiral or anything, but it's good for pitching heavy cover and stuff. And I'd like to get into it. I mean, it seems like every time I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, I was meaning to try that. We saw Jason Christie go nuts at Neely Henry this year with a tube, and he didn't want to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? The camera only was on him the final day, but he had a big second or third day and caught some pictures of that tube that he was flipping, and he was getting 17 bites to everybody else's one with that thing while everybody else was swimming a jig. Just turned out that he didn't win, but he made a run at it.
Well, it's a great shape, and I think it's underutilized, so the fish aren't seeing it anymore. Yeah. It used to be the dominant flipping tool.
Well, the other thing about it is if you're balling on a budget, dude, there's no cheaper flipping bait than a tube. You can get a big old bag for like $250.
Yep, 100.
Yeah.
100 count for $7.
Yeah, tubes are cheap.
I like it. Great question, though. Talking about the tube again.
And there's some guys that do some mods to them, thinning the skirt out and.
Yep. Well, of course, you can dye the skirt.
I fished with Milliken when he was here, and he's got a tube that he's super, super confident in, and that was his deal, on pegged, and he was trimming out about probably 2/3 of the tentacles on it.
Right.
It was just that's how he wanted it.
Yep.
Matter of fact, our buddy from Tin Cup, Luke Foley, still flips the tube a lot.
Yeah.
And he's out there competing.
Yep.
On stuff.
Yeah, the tube's in good shape. Rizzy, is there another IM question before we go to break?
Yeah, there is. Team No Fish Pete wants to know how much do you think having a very short practice helped you in your tournament to kind of stay open and lucid and just kind of move with the fish?
I don't know if having a short practice helped me, but it focused me, I guess is what it did. Is like, because when you have such a short practice, you're like, okay, well, I really wanted to go offshore and look for smallmouth off of Danza points and rocks and stuff, but I don't have the time. I can't do that now, so that's off the table. You start eliminating stuff that's just not. There's no time for. So I got a couple bites, and recognizing I've just got a couple hours to explore that, so let me just go down this path. And so it helped me focus, and go to my strength. But those short practices are it's uncomfortable. Have you been forced into a short practice situation before? It makes me uncomfortable. Like man,
I'll say this, like. There's been so many times over these last 3 years where the first day of my official Elite Series practice, like I'm on them, and then it changes after that.
Yeah.
So it's like, by the time we get to the tournament, 4 days later, 3 days later, that's when it all is starting to change again.
Right.
I don't know. Something about my first day on the water is always a really good day every time.
Wow.
For practice. So I would like to see one day of practice.
Yeah, I want to ask a follow-up question for Team No Fish.
Okay.
Our buddy Andre. What he really wanted to ask you was how much did keeping the baits simple, just simplifying that, make it that much easier for you? Because Andre's in my dang DMs every day, sending me different colors of baits and special order stuff, and which is awesome.
Yep.
And he's all about it. But you can get. I've been doing it, getting way too hung up on just switching techniques around and baits around and. You threw one color in your last 5 events.
I did. I was throwing black, and but I won on Cayuga on black. That. So I feel confident with that. I knew I was in the summertime pattern. I knew I was looking for that flipping bite, and that's what I spent the majority of my practice time, because it takes the longest to find that, and I just came off of Cayuga where I'm flipping. I came off Oneida where I'm flipping. I'm like, the only way I'm going to be successful here is to find this flipping bite. And if I don't find it, I'm going to get shallow and I'm going to fish the dock cover. And that's what I'm going to do.
Dude, you're like an old John Cox.
Yeah. Just everybody else is using forward-facing sonar, so a lot more people are off the bank.
Yeah.
A lot more people are, so there's less shallow fishing pressure, and but I didn't find the flipping bite. I did not find it. So, but what I still looked for it during the tournament. I continued to practice looking for that bite, but after a little while, I abandoned it, and then I went shallow, and I was rewarded immediately. So I knew exactly how I was going to fish the rest of that tournament. But short practice really pushes you into a shallow water bite.
Yeah, I would say so. Like your strength, whatever your strength is.
Pushes you
to your strength.
Yep.
Absolutely right.
Yep.
And I was bummed out because the first spot I stopped at, gray buck was on, and not on it, but like I was fishing the grass point. Gray was like, I don't know, 400 feet of water, You know,
400. Could be.
And Sean McKee was there in another boat, but Graybuck and another boat were out there, and that's one of the patterns I wanted to look for is that deeper smallmouth bite. And I watched Gray put 2 nice smallmouth in the boat, literally. Like I don't even know how
Tournament
deep it
day?
was. Derby day, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we all started on the same point, but I was fishing in 12 feet of water. They were fishing in. I don't know if their sonar could find the bottom. How far? I idled across Cayuga. It was great, and I sent a video to my son because it's not often you see water that deep. Because I was in 389 feet, and I'm finding 400, and so I kept driving around until my Humminbird, touched 400 feet.
On practice?
On practice day.
A short practice day?
Yeah, my short practice.
Didn't have enough time. Keep checking things.
Hey, Jake, I'm out here looking for 400 feet. Daddy's got you. We're going to find it, son.
That's awesome.
Hey, that's your fishing.
Hey, what if you found a mega school out there?
Right?
School of swimmers out there, 200.
That's fishing relaxed right there.
Oh, yeah, it is. Oh, my God.
I could just see it. You got got your lunch going. You got the screen up, just looking for it.
That was good stuff. But you know what's going on out there too is I guess the lake trout guys are going berserk.
Yeah.
Like on Saturday, they were it looked like the Delaware Bay back in the day. Just boats for miles.
Trolling, right?
Just trolling or drifting or doing whatever lake trout guys do. But they were hollering, man. It was like they loaded up on one of the places I was fishing. They were running around the boat, reeling rods in, screaming and hollering, dropping F-bombs, going all over, going nuts.
That's awesome.
But apparently that bite is on fire on Cayuga right
The Lakers?
now. The Lakers.
Yeah.
As well as the big bass.
That's where your smallmouth are.
Some are.
Yeah, they're probably out
The
there
big
with
ones,
them.
yeah.
Yep. But like Chris Aldane, I know in the Bassmaster, the elite tournament there, he scored well fishing in that deeper zone, like 20 to 40, maybe 60. I don't know. We got to talk to Sean McKee. Sean, if you're listening, how deep were you fishing out there? It looked to me like 100 feet.
I'm sure he's watching.
Yeah, well, let's catch that commercial break because we're hours past due.
Yes.
Well, let me rewind back real quick. One quick question. Pete.
Yes.
30 fish on Cinco. They were all black Cincos?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Keep it
And
simple.
Well, you know what? No. I mixed it
One is
up
black blue.
on occasion, and I brought in that laminate, that green weenie laminate. I threw that a little bit. I threw the chartreuse tail around on occasion. But yeah, it was honestly for me, it was all reaction. So it didn't matter. I probably could have thrown any color because
but how's it? Oh, it's not well.
it's the flipping bite.
The flipping bite's a reaction.
Was yeah. I mean, I had heavy VMC flipping weights pegged. Half and a 3/4 ounce on a stick bait and see how fast it goes. It's like it's going super fast. So it was the trigger
putting
of
a dent
speed.
in the bottom.
And the other the other one was the skip, right? You had to make a skip into no man's land, and that was getting the reaction. So the color probably didn't matter there either. You just had to get it into their house in a quiet, fast way, and that probably got that that bite that way too. So I might have been able to get away with different colors, but don't fix it if it ain't broke.
That's so. Now that I've heard the story of Cayuga, I gotta ask: did you start every tournament day in this heater of a run with 2 fish for like 9 pounds?
It was crazy. It happened at Oneida. Like Oneida. Like how tough it was,
Oh,
Greg?
it was tough.
Right? I go to my first area and I'm flipping along, 45 minutes go by, and I'm looking for smallmouth and it's not happening. And I'm like, let me go up a little shallower because I was getting some largemouth bites a little shallower. Not much, but the grass was just a little bit down. So I get up off of this point and I flip in and boom, I load up. And it's just not moving. And I'm like, this has got to be a pike, I'm like, be a bat. And up jumps a 411 on Oneida. How hard it was. And And then on my next cast, I caught a 4.4 on that same spot. So, yeah, I got 2 fish for 9 pounds, 8.5, 9 pounds there. And same thing happened at Cayuga. The first hour went by without any success, but then I started out with a smallmouth that was 4.5 and a largemouth that was 4. So I had 2 fish for 9 pounds in the first hour of that event too. So that's going to be my objective moving forward in all the tournaments.
Let's get a 5 and a 4 in the boat. First 2.
The key was in 25 to 40 feet. Yeah. That's what you just said. 25 to 40 feet.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that point must have rose because, he was far enough off the bank. I thought it would be deeper. But, yeah, that's good stuff. Thanks, Sean. But, yeah, wouldn't that be cool if we could start out with 9 pounds in the boat for 2 every tournament? I hope it continues. But great stuff. Great questions. Thanks, JK and the IM board. Appreciate you guys. And we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be right back with Andrew Loberg, the winner, out on the Delta. We're going to be talking about, man, what he did out there, punching in the grass. Excited to learn about that, how he did that in the tidal water, what that looked like. So stay tuned. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back after this.
Moment on the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
Tackle Warehouse is proud to sponsor the FLW Pro Circuit and is the official tackle retailer of FLW, providing proven bass fishing gear as well as the newest and hottest tackle. Our friendly and knowledgeable customer service staff can help you every step of the way. And we offer free ground shipping on orders over $50. Tackle Warehouse. Everything for the bass angler at the lowest prices. Guaranteed.
I have to be constantly on the lookout for new techniques to stay on the top of my game.
Giant.
Some have been more successful than others.
Giant.
The finesse fingernail.
Happens every time.
The chain gang.
Broke it off.
The crow's nest.
Never let go.
And don't even get me started on tackle management, especially trying to stop rust and corrosion. Peanut butter.
Not good.
Motor oil.
Gotta keep the rust off all these baits.
WD-40.
Keep the rust off.
Silica, toothpicks, Q-tips, the list goes on and on. I'm hard on tackle, I fish fast, I need my tackle organized and protected. I can't be worrying about losing baits to rust. And when it comes to tackle management, there's only one solution. Flambeau Tackle Storage Systems with Z-Rust technology. The original anti-rust tackle box. Uncompromised clarity. Renowned durability. The infused anti-rust option that is FDA safe and free of harmful chemicals. The organization options are endless, but there's only one. One box, one anti-corrosion technology, one family-owned American-made brand, Flambeau Z-Rust Tackle Solutions. Preserve, perform, repeat.
Bash University Live, that was a blast, reliving all that stuff, and been a great start. And guys, we got a guy that's coming on that broke through with a big monster win, not a top finish, but a big W. And I want to throw this over to JK, because you guys, you guys have spent a little time on the water. So, JK, take it away, buddy. Who's with us tonight?
That's right. We've got Andrew Loberg in the house, straight out of California, 27-year-old kid, as I'll call him, because he's just getting started. I got to fish with him at the Toyota Series Championship in the back of his boat. Luckily, drew him out on day one. We caught bigs, and we both found ourselves in fourth place going into the final day. So we got to fish together again. Had horrendous fishing conditions. Kid comes all the way across this country, I don't know, 30-something hour drive, and hangs tough, with a top 10 finish. And, I saw something special in him. I said, this kid's a winner. And then, of course, I look back, and he's no stranger to the winner's circle. He's won twice at the FLW college level, and finally getting his first Toyota Series championship at the California Delta. Just a little bit more. He fished all 4 years at Chico State, won those 2 times. 14 out of 40 top 10 finishes in his major league resume so far. 14 for 40 for top 10s. That's pretty awesome. He works in agriculture and graduated with a degree in crop science, correct, at Chico?
Yep.
And just a Clear Lake hammer who figured out the Delta and is trying to make it to the pro circuit. And I'm rooting for him. I know. Great to have you, man. Congratulations on coming through with the big dub.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks very much.
The champ.
That was a really good intro right there. And I first want to thank you guys for having me on. This is a pretty big deal for me. This is really cool. I always watch you guys all the time, and really stoked and really happy to get my first big win at that level. I'm pretty excited about it.
Man, that's an awesome win on a historic body of water. With a really, really cool technique. So I'm really welcome to the show. Thanks for being here with us tonight, man. It's awesome, and the top 10 ratio that you got going on over there is pretty spectacular. You're setting a pace that's hard to follow, but but man, this was a great win, man. Are you still on cloud 9? Have you come down? Are you still floating around up there?
Oh no, I'm still on cloud 9, surfing around up there. It's set in a little bit, but it's still one of those deals. I get texts every now and then, congrats still, and it's just like unbelievable. I mean, on a place like the Delta that is just ever changing, and especially within the last 5 to 10 years with our water crisis in California, water diversions and them spraying grass and everything else that goes into the Delta. Then you have this thing called tides that just throw in for a loop. And then, it was just one of those deals where a lot of it just fell into place. And I was just fortunate enough to get the win. And then, we also have in California a 6-hour summer rule. It's a law that beginning of summer to the end of summer, all tournaments have to be 6 hours. So, you launch at 6 and you're in by noon.
That's
so
terrible for a tidal body of water.
Yeah, it makes for a hectic day. That's for sure.
Oh,
ouch!
Wow,
crazy.
I had no idea that. That's
I'd spin out before the tournament even starts. Like, I'm not gonna see a turn. Like,
exactly. Well, that's one thing that's kind of cool, especially about tides, is in this tournament you kind of only have one switch, right? And in theory we had 2. We had the low outgoing and then a low incoming for our tournament. But yeah, you don't get any. Once you have that high water and it's gone. Then you got to run back to the ramp. So it just it's crazy.
Well, you saw low water. That I guess that's good. Well, it was good for you. Have you ever fished the East Coast tides?
No, I have not fished any of the East Coast tidal waters, and I would love to go out to the Chesapeake or the Potomac. I mean, they just look crazy.
I'm assuming that your tide swings are the same on the Delta, right? It's a 6-hour tide swing, twice a day. Is that what you're dealing with?
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
So every 12 hours is a high tide and 12 hours a low.
Gotcha. Yep. Because it gets a little squirrely down on the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah, they're different.
Those tides are a little bit different, but
really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they have these really low, like 1 foot swings, 12-hour cycles. It's
Right.
It's trick. It's
like a
I can't
fake
say I
tide.
ever really
Fake tides.
Fake
Yeah,
tides.
Fugazi tides.
I
Yeah,
can't.
exactly.
I have never truly understood. I've only fished down there a couple times,
Right.
but here we go, man. Like you're out at the Delta. Do you have any experience at the Delta? Is this new to you? Are you an old hand out there?
No, I mean I'm from the Sacramento area, so I literally live, the closest ramp that I go to is like an hour and 20 minutes away. So I really don't live that far from the Delta. And my old man and all my uncles, they used to come out here all the time and fish tournaments back in the day, and then they kind of got out of the tournament scene. But yeah, I mean I come down here occasionally. I fish team tournaments out here, but a lot of my time goes straight to Clear Lake just because I love it so much. It's literally the bass factory. It's a very addicting place, but I do have experience out here, and there's a big local presence, which they're very, very good fishermen, and sometimes it can, be tough to beat them, but hey, it's fishing, it's tides. I mean, it's anybody's game out there, just as much. So I do have experience out here for sure.
Well, take us through it, Andrew. Like, how was your practice? What'd you get dialed into, and how'd that go for you?
So looking, before the tournament started, the good thing with tidal fisheries is you can kind of see what type of water you're going to go into with, you know what I mean? So you can look at a tide chart, certain areas of the Delta, and kind of figure out like, hey, I'm launching at 6 a.m. We weigh in at noon. I'm going to go, what water's in the east side, what water's on the south side, the north side, and so forth. And then, what water's close to the ramp. And you can kind of figure out what water you're going to be working with, of how high the water is or how low it is. And in the recent years, the punch bite, so using a heavy weight with a big hook, big line, and we have a ton of grass in this place. And we have hyacinth, we have alidea, hydrilla, milfoil. We have a bunch of grass. And, the past few years, you look at the tournament results and you're like, oh, it's one punching. Oh, it's one punching. So in my mind, the last couple of years I've been going out with some buddies and, I'm like, I just got to go punch. That's just where they live. That's just all year. If you find the right stuff, you're going to find some fish. And this tournament, I looked at the tides and we had a low outgoing the first day. And as each day progressed, going to the third day, the water got higher, but it was going out. So my chances of low water were slowly becoming shorter and shorter, right? So, but which was fine because I had enough low water so I could punch, for a couple hours. So in practice, there's on the Delta that we have this hyacinth. It's basically a floating vegetation, and underneath it, you have the root clumps. Mm-hmm. And it's just bare water. It's not like hydrilla where it mats out and you have it straight to the soil or to the ground. It's just floating. It's almost like a dock. That's kind of what you got to think of it as. And when it gets hot and that water temperature gets hot, fish on river systems, they need that cool, running water. They like a lot of current. They're feeding on bait fish, crawdads, what have you. So they'll get out of this, shallow bays and they'll go to current. And they'll find these hyacinth mats pushed up on banks and tule clumps on, levee roads. And if you have somewhat deep water under them, they'll sit under them just like a dock suspended, right?
Sure.
So on that, what's that?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I've fished hyacinths down like on the Mississippi Delta, and yeah, it's tremendous habitat.
Exactly. And what happens is when you look at a hyacinth mat on high tide, you got to look at that, I guess, similar to a dock. They need that deeper water. They need that current. And if you have a high tide and there's too much water towards the back of it, those fish can kind of spread out and roam. But when you have a low tide, those fish like to suck out right on the edge of it. So your point of actually fishing your target of punching or flipping the hyacinth mat becomes a lot smaller than punching like, a 15 by 15 foot mat. Instead, you're only like, okay, I'm gonna roll up to this mat. I'm gonna punch 3 feet of it and then I'm done. And that's just where they're gonna be on low tide.
Sounds
so
pretty
going
similar
into
to
it,
our water. Low tide is your
exactly,
bite tide.
Yep.
I mean,
exactly. So
I
so
was really
going into
curious
it,
about that because, like, every tidal body of water, is going to be a little bit different, but it seems like across the board, generally, lower water is better because it condenses your fish, right?
It puts them exactly. It puts them right to those those target points where you can be like, all right, I'm going to make 5 flips and I'm out.
Were these like little tiny like hyacinth isolated mats, or were they mass expanses of hyacinths? What was it?
I mean, they could literally be the size of, it could be really, really small. And they also could be, 50-yard stretches, and in those 50-yard stretches, there's key spots where maybe there's a little bit of a break in the contour and they get in, or there's a point in the mat that comes out where the current can get around it. The fish kind of just tell you what's going on when you get out and practice. But what I found was, you had to have some sort of grass nearby, and you had to have clean grass and a lot of current. And because I practice a lot of hyacinth, and that's normally kind of where it gets won out of. But a lot of my bites were coming out of either a mix or just straight grass. And that would be like an Aladea or like a milfoil type grass. But it's the same exact logic behind what I said about low tide, current, and those fish can suck out. You know what I mean? Because there was a bunch of grass mats, with floating hyacinth in them that I found on low tide, but I was punching on the edge and maybe 5 feet in, and then I'd punch way back to see how deep it was, but there was still 5 or 6 feet of water in there. Sorry about that. And so my practice went straight to the hyacinth, because that's normally what's going to happen. Warm water, warm conditions. Went to the hyacinth, and I was getting a few bites here and there. I probably put 4 or 5 hours chasing the tide on a low tide, trying to find some good hyacinth mats, and I just was not. I was getting a little frustrated, could not figure it out for big bites. Towards the end of my day 1 practice, I rolled up to a grass mat and just strictly grass. Wind was blowing, the tide was coming in, and the tide was at like a 1.3. So not like super ideal, but it was still low enough to do it. And within like 5 pitches, I hooked like a 3.5. And this was at like 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. And I hooked a 3.5, and that was like one of my bigger fish of the day. And just like a light switch went off, and I'm like, whatever this is right here, the next few days, I got to run it. I got to find as much as I can, And that's
what's
what I did.
interesting? Let me interrupt you for a second, Andrew. I think this is cool. A lot of people miss this when they're practicing tidal water. You're at night, at 6 o'clock at night, finding this pattern. Well, that same tide is going to occur 6 o'clock, or 6:50 the next morning. So
exactly.
When you're a couple days before the event, really the best practice time is at night when you're going to see the same tide.
Yep, exactly.
What is the swing on the Delta? How high? Like how much do you get? Because like on the Delaware, for example, we get like a 6-foot tide swing. On the Chessie, we get like about a 2.5 to 3-ish foot tide swing. Like what are you working with on the Delta?
It's mainly like a 3 foot, and sometimes occasionally 4, and it'll get a little bit higher too. And then we'll have that, I don't know what type of tide it's called. Like we'll have a pretty big swing, and then we'll have like kind of a smaller swing, and then it'll go back to like a bigger one. I don't know what it's called, and that's kind of what we had in the tournament, where we had a big swing and a big outgoing with a lot of current, and then our incoming wasn't as much moving water. It was a smaller incoming. But yeah, it doesn't get as big as the one back east that you guys fish.
Right.
Waxing and waning.
We get that though. The one major and then the
I forget what it's called. Obviously off the moon. I can't remember.
I don't know what it's called either. But you're exact. One's got more current, one's got less, and it matters because the one that has more water's rushing in, rushing out. The fish are going to typically be more aggressive during that cycle. And but you're low tide, you found this grass, you're punching, you got a few key bites, and you're pumped going into the next couple days of practice. How'd they go?
It was great. And that first punch fish where I kind of figured out what they were setting up on, it was in an area I was pretty, familiar with and comfortable with. And I looked on Google Earth and my Navionics chip and, at home, and I'm like, I got to find some areas around this area because we launched out a Big Break, which is pretty far west. And when I say pretty far, big for out here. So it's like it's probably a 25-minute run. And when you make that run in a 6-hour tournament, you can really, as you guys know, in a tidal situation, you can really get spun out and just start running around all over the place.
Yeah.
So I needed to make sure that I was in one, fairly decent area, and I could just bounce around to that area and be done with it.
Sure.
Find a little bit of water out west, find a little bit out east, and then be done. Not go way north, south, all that jazz.
Dude, 25-minute run in a 6-hour tournament.
That's
could be bad.
You're under the gun, man.
Yeah. Well, here's the other kicker too, and since we're this is a pretty big drought year for us, probably one of the worst droughts we've had in a really long time. And this year, and they've done it in previous years on the False River. So you have the main river that runs around the Delta, and there's one other main river called the False River. That's way easier to run through to get to the central Delta, go south, go north. They actually put a saltwater intrusion levee in the middle of it. So you had to basically take the main river all the way around it to take it down to some of your areas. So that, in theory, my 25-minute run could have been 15 instead of 25.
So you can't just blast the levee if you just trim it up and stay on point. No, doesn't work like that. Okay.
No, maybe on a high tide. No, it's a pretty tall levee, and they basically do that for salinity intrusion or saltwater intrusion. I don't know the science behind it, but it's basically on an incoming tide to eliminate some of that saltwater coming into the Delta region for the ecosystem.
I've never seen one of those before. I got to go look at an image of it. It's just basically like a dam, right?
The Sabine has a ton.
Yeah, it's basically a dam. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And it actually kind of threw off. Like, Frank's Track is a pretty historic area in the Delta, and it's not too far from there. And they've had that dam previous, so a lot of people know about it. But in Frank's Track and some of the flooded islands actually had like an algae bloom, and normally it never really has that because of the current and the tide switches and stuff. So there was a little bit of an algae bloom in some of these areas that I wasn't familiar with. I'm like, the water's normally semi-clear with all the grass, but when you stop that current, you get a little bit different water.
Well,
Andrew,
you had a good practice. You got a pattern going on. Day one, man. Where was your head? Were you excited? Did you sleep?
No, I was stoked up. I knew what I had, and I knew the area I was going to go to. I had my tides right, but going into the Delta, it's just one of those places that changes so much, and I'm like, let's just go into it, catch as much as you can, and keep it going. And first day of the tournament, rolled it to some of my stretches, fishing a chatterbait because the tide was a little high before it got out so I could punch. Caught some fish, actually caught 1 4-pounder on a chatterbait, and kind of a little bonus fish. And then I went and punched the rest of the day and had my 19 pounds. And then the next day, hit all new water in that same area and scratched out 13, a lot tougher day. And then going into the final day, I just had no idea what to expect. I hit pretty much everything I had except one area I fished in practice where I caught a big one and shook some off and popped in there, about 8:30. And within like 10 minutes, I punched that big one. It was like that 8-pounder or whatever it was. And I was pretty jacked up. And I went and threw chatterbaits and, top water and stuff in the morning, had 3 small ones and popped in there, caught that big one. I look at my toe, I'm like, geez, I gotta fill the rest of this limit out. And then I caught one about 4. And then in my mind, I'm like, okay, we might be able to get on a little something in here. And then just kind of grinded it out and, made the rest of my coals. And by, 10 o'clock, that tide started coming in. I kind of started heading back a little bit just, to be safe. The wind was kind of blowing and, fish some stuff around the ramp.
What was your weight on the last day?
I had 23.5, I want to say.
23.6. And it was the second biggest bag of the Derby. that was, I mean, it seemed like looking at the weights, nobody had over 50 pounds in this tournament. Andrew had 55.11. He won by almost 7 pounds. And there was a lone 26-pound bag, 25.14 weight. But it looks like the 4 and 5 pound bites were a premium, and you caught an 8. Now I heard about a chatterbait a little bit, but the punching deal seemed like it was the deal. What was the meat and potatoes, bro? What was that?
I actually brought a rod.
Country. Yeah, show us.
All right,
what you were
show and tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have so my main one was, let's say this would be my main one. I punched probably 80% of the time.
Wait a minute. That doesn't look like a black Senko.
Yeah.
No, not a black Senko.
Ooh, I know what
I did
that
have
is,
a couple of those tied up. This is just a Powell. It's the 795. Great rod, and I normally go 1 ounce and below on this rod. It's light enough I can get away. You know, it's way easier to flip than anything over an ounce. It's really parabolic, so when you're punching, you know, you're only like 10 feet away. So when you hammer them, you don't want just a broom, you know, ripping them out and losing them. So having a little bit of bend, you know, closer to that last guide, I think helps a lot. Gives them a little give. And then Daiwa Tatula, 65-pound P line.
What size Tatula reel?
This is an 8-to-1.
Is it a 100 or 150, 200? What do you got?
The 200, the 201.
Okay.
And then that's pretty much about it. I was using just a regular beaver. This was from Clear Lake this weekend. Just a regular, that's on this one. Just a regular 420 or 4-inch beaver. And then this is my other rod. This is an 1.5 ounce weight, 806. It's just way easier. When the wind picked up, when you're flipping in wind, it can be really, really hard to get through a lot of these mats. And that's the reason why I went to a 1.5. Some of the vegetation was thick enough to get it, you know, to use a 1.5. But when that wind picks up and you're trying to punch, the 65-pound, or most grade, but 65-pound, it almost acts like a parachute. So when you're trying to punch, that wind pushes against it and that weight doesn't want to drop. So when it was windy, you know, the first 2 days, I'd pick up the 1.5 when it was windy, and it would get through that grass and hyacinth a lot easier. But same setup, but this is a lot heavier rod.
What hook are you using, Andrew?
I'd go back and forth. You know, I used the owner jungle hook, the 4-aught, and then my buddy Jim Moulton, he actually gave me a pack of these Hayabusa hooks. I don't know the name of them, but I was using.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, those hooks are pretty sick. I really, really like them, and they're a little bit thinner wire than the owners, and I love the owners. But the Hayabusas were a little bit thinner, and I mean, on that 8-pounder and some other big ones I caught, they didn't bend out or nothing, and I was pretty jacked up about it.
On the first setup you showed us, was that 65-pound braid as well?
Yeah.
So it's always 65. You won't go down to 50 in any circumstances.
For me, it's all 65. I know a lot of guys, I mean, like Mark Daniels, he'll go 50, punches 50 all the time with an ounce and a half, but. You know, and my other buddy, Bryant Smith, he'll punch 80 like it's going out of style, and he catches them pretty well here. So it's all preference to what you're comfortable with, really, I think.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's the Hayabusa FPP straight heavy-duty worm hook.
Yeah.
They sell 2 different ones. They got a
they're pretty rad hooks. Yeah.
The other one, GDP?
They have 2 different ones. They basically have a fluorocarbon straight shank, and they have a braid straight shank. You know, one's an HD version.
Gotcha.
Right, yeah, that's what I was talking about, the HD. I didn't realize. Oh, yeah, there it is. I'm on Tackle Warehouse right now. They got both.
Andrew, look at you. He's already got a cart open. I see you, JK.
Andrew, are you snelling or are you not snelling?
That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah, snelling for sure.
Okay.
I always snell. Yeah.
What kind of tungsten are you using?
I think it's Woo Tungsten, to be completely honest. I'm not sure. I bought those a while ago.
Right. Because I mean, I know some guys like the Rains, or you know, the ones with the inserts in them, or other kind of brands. For you, does it make a difference or no?
No, for me, whatever's cheapest.
What about the color on the? What about the color on the weight?
I love it.
I like black mostly, or green pumpkin.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much does how much does the color on your flipping bait actually matter? Do you vary it depending whether it's light out or overcast and cloudy? Like what makes you pick the color on that soft plastic?
A lot of it has to do with, I think, time of season. And on the Delta, crawdads, they just mow crawdads left and right. And there's a few different patterns of crawdads that I like to do out there. But that green pumpkin red's hard to beat. And then a lot of times in the springtime, you'll go with that like sprayed grass color when they're mowing down bluegills. But I try to keep it simple. It's one of thing deals with punching. And I'm no expert at it. I just absolutely love punching, and I've been doing it for the past few years. But for me, that 1 ounce or 1.5 ounce gun through a mat, I'd say 95% of my bites were on the initial fall, and a lot of it's just reaction.
Right.
So in a lot of, in my eyes, sometimes color matters, but I think a lot of it has to do with confidence in what you're confident with. Because, in practice, I'd switch up a few colors, and then I'm like, well, I'm just going to go with whatever I have most of so I don't run out of them. And then just do that.
So you did have you did have a chatterbait thing going, as JK alluded to, or at least enough of a chatterbait thing going for MLF to photograph you with it. What I want to know is, in your 6-hour tournament, how many did you have the punch and rod in your hand for 5 hours? Did you have it in your hand for 5.5 hours? Did you have it in your hand for 4 hours? Like what kind of ratio would you put that at? Like how much did you commit to that technique?
The punching deal was whenever that tide was low.
Gotcha.
So I would say, like, the first day I punched for probably 5 hours. Second day, probably 4, and then the third day, probably 3.
And when the tide started to come lift is when you went to the moving bait?
Exactly. So the tournament started, we had a lot lower water in the morning because we had an outgoing tide. And in the morning, the first day, we probably had like an hour-long window of a little bit higher water, and then it'd be low the rest of the time. The second day, we had another hour of higher water of outgoing. We had another hour of outgoing in the morning. So I would spend an hour and a half on the chatterbait and reaction baits when those fish were moved up more. And then when that tide dropped out, I'd go punch. And the third day, I had to spend 2.5 hours chatterbaiting in top water, and then I'd go punch. So it was really when that tide was low enough, and when that timing was right. Because
how many bites an hour were you getting when you're punching?
It really depends, but I mean, to be honest with you, the first day I had probably the most bites. I probably caught 20 to 25 fish doing it.
Good God, are your ribs bruised?
No, I mean, a lot of them are, you'd probably catch, a lot of like 1.5 to 2 pounders, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
But, and then the second day, I hit a lot of stuff, and it was weird the second day because it was just brutal all around. A lot of guys didn't catch it besides my buddy Christian. He bagged them that second day, but that second day was tough, and I probably only caught 12 to 15 fish, and then the final day I probably about the same.
Man, well, everybody was punching. I mean, right? Everybody knows. You said it. You did the research. Everybody's punching. But what do you think separated you from the field, where everybody's doing it? Like, what do you think that you did differently that got you this W?
I think either knowing, which a lot of those guys, I mean, they're all studs out there, but really knowing the water you're fishing as far as when that tide is low and where those fish set up, I think is key, because there's so much grass and hyacinth on this place, and there's a lot of like dead water in that stuff to where there's probably fish around, but they're hard to get. But knowing your area, and then also I guess just having confidence and just putting it in your hand and going, because you can really get spun out in a 6-hour tournament. And, you could say you punched all day, but, say I'm punching, but like, gosh, maybe I'll drop shot these holes. Maybe I'll Senko these holes around here. But really just putting that rod in your hand and just going, that's kind of what I just had to stick to it,
Yeah. I love that style. Like you said it, like you caught a lot of small fish, and the coolest thing about punching is it drops through and it goes donk, and you got this moment where you just got a bite and you're about to hit him and you don't know if he's this big, and if you're on the Delta, He can be 8 pounds. And there's just
Exactly.
that moment like, oh, my God, it's about to go
Exactly.
down, man.
And then,
that's what
and
we
then,
live for.
and then for the next 3 nights, you hear that line in your sleep, and
Oh,
all
my
you think
God.
about is the line singing. And
It is the best. It is the best thing in the world. And I've actually, what's funny too is I've heard stories about it. But the last tournament on the Delta we had, I actually punched a striper, which I never done before. But I know guys do, and that's a bite and a half.
Oh, my God. Did that happen during the tournament? Did you think it was a bass?
I thought it was a bad. I mean, I thought it was a good one, and I pinched in there. I just smoked it, and I swung, and it was in the mat, and it was a 3-pound striper. I'm like, are you kidding me? Especially, it had to be in a tournament.
yeah, that's awesome.
You're destined to win.
Stripers are in mats. Our pets' heads are falling off.
Exactly.
Yep,
Dude,
exactly.
Dude, I was on Champlain. I was punching a mat, and it was a mat the previous day I caught 2 big ones out of, and I punched in there, and it went dunk, and our set, and this rod just doubled over, and I got this, and I'm like, net. I'm like calling. I'm like, I know this is lunker, and it was a 3-pound smallmouth under a mat.
They're strong.
Oh
aren't they?
my God.
Oh, dude.
Yep.
They weld it to the bottom when they bite it.
They get welded to the bottom.
How about it?
Yep.
That is
I'm telling
unbelievable.
you, it's nuts.
I couldn't even use them.
Yep.
It was 3 pounds. I couldn't use them, but I thought it was lunker. It was crazy.
They either get welded to the bottom or they come straight up. One of the two.
Yep. Well,
That's awesome.
Andrew, you and JK spent some time on the water together. Tell me about that. You guys, what was that experience like?
Oh, it was awesome. We had a great time on the water. The first day of the tournament, we were all both jacked up, kind of shivering because it was cold, but shivering because we were excited. And, it had a pattern going into it, and we started fishing. You caught that first big one right off the bat, and we just went to work. I knew there were some fish around, and we had plenty of water to fish, and we had a good time. I mean, we talked a lot. It was a fun time, and then it was crazy because at the end of the day, we were like, dude, I wish we could just fish tomorrow. I mean, it was one of those deals, and then we both made the top 10, and they were going down people are weighing in, looking at the weighing slips, and then I look over him like, I think this is gonna happen. And we fished the final day together. It was awesome.
Yeah, we did. I gotta say, Andrew is tough to catch from behind, right? So I had a deal where I could catch some up in the water column, but there was fish to be had all down the side of the rock faces and stuff, so you could get them with a jig. So a lot of times, if Andrew, you picked up a spinnerbait every now and then. I think yours was more of a largemouth deal. Whenever you identified a piece where there might be a largemouth, but we were in smallmouth territory for the most part, and I actually had gotten a whiff of a spinnerbait bite in practice. I practiced 2 hours with Wesley Strader because he had boat trouble, but I got a whiff of that, and then my first one's like a great, they're all like 3.5 pounders. And to be quite honest, it was so cold, it was so tough to catch them, and Andrew probably had 10 to 15 keepers that day. Had a really good day. I only weighed in 3, which was really good in that tournament for a co-angler. There was like 5 limits over 180 guys for all 3 days. It was crazy. But I will say this, he got me around enough opportunities that had I executed, I would have won the tournament. And that's with a 0 on the final day because it was that tough. But I broke off a really big largemouth that I saw that day, and I broke off another one that Andrew saw, and he actually said, hey, throw back there. I think I just had one come up, and I don't think I need it. And I pitched my drop shot back in there, and I don't even know how that fish broke off, but it still makes me mad.
I know.
Wow.
But it was probably a 2.5, 3 pounder. They were all that quality. But that's the day where I was like, man, this kid's got it. This kid is around the right stuff. The tournament got won in that region. Like, he had identified stretches of that lake, that honestly, I wasn't expecting him to be there. I expected the tournament to be won a little further south on the lake and stuff, but I hadn't been there. And, you could tell he'd driven across the country 30 some odd hours and put in practice, and the dude was ready. lot of changes over that tournament, but yeah, I can't complain, man. I had a stellar time, and the guys just positive energy all day long. So, that there was never I don't think ever a negative moment in that boat, even when things got tough on the third day. So I definitely walked away knowing that this winning moment was coming his way soon.
That's interesting because positive energy is something you bring on the water, JK. So there was JK. It's like no matter how hard the bite is, we're always gonna, we're gonna get a bite down here. We're gonna figure it out, and I noticed that practicing with you, JK, it's pretty awesome. So the two of you, man, together, it just you couldn't help but be successful.
Yeah, we meshed. I mean, it was one of those deals where it's like, hey, we're around them. Let's just go catch them.
No.
Yeah, a lot of celebrations that first day. It just made it fun because, golly, it was cold, man. It was like 22 degrees that morning. We saw snow that first day. Like it was horrendous.
It's a whole lot warmer when you're catching them, though.
Oh.
That warms you up like nothing else.
It does.
Yep.
Well, we know JK
right.
has the gift of gab. How is it during fishing conditions, Andrew? Are you guys chatting it up, or does he actually get quiet and focused? What's it like fishing with JK?
No, we're chopping it up. I mean, there's some moments where we're getting dialed in, but no, we're cutting it up, having a good time. And it honestly, sometimes I think, being able to talk and and promote the positivity or just talk about, just other things kind of gets your mind off the stressfulness. And you know what I mean? Because there's so many times we're in a tournament and it's just dead silent and all you can think about is what's wrong, right? But when you don't have that, it just makes the day a lot better.
Well, that's that's great that you guys fish together, and now here you got this big win, and we're super psyched to have you on the show and talk about all this great stuff. We can't wait to get punching. I mean, it's punching season all over the country right now. And so what's next for you? Does that get you into the championship, winning you're in, or are you coming to the championship? What's your deal?
Yeah, they have the program. I don't know if it started this year or last year, but they have the win you're in scenario. So I'm locked in, but we have our last tournament on the Western region at Lake Havasu in the last week of September. So that'll be a pretty warm one down in the desert. But it should be fun. I haven't been down there that time of year, and I don't think a lot of people have. And they got big smallmouth, big largemouth. It should be a good time. Clear water.
I love Lake Havasu. I only fished it one time, but it's a really neat desert lake, and we look forward to watching it there, BTC. But what do you got going on over there?
And shoot, maybe forget the damn guy's name.
Sorry, he's from YouTube. We appreciate his comment. Go ahead.
Something Rosenwinkel. Wanted to know if he saw a bead between your weight and your hook.
Yeah.
There is a bead. Good eye, man. Sorry for butchering your name.
Punching with a bead. Let's see here. Punching with those like Fitzgerald beads. Probably about over a year ago, I got into them because when you're punching with a heavier weight without a punch skirt, you tend to rip a lot more, and sometimes that weight when you set the hook on the weight and the hook clashing together, I don't know. Sometimes it'll like rip your line. It just gets a little weird. So I think having that bead separates it a little bit, and your bait moves a little freer. It just takes the place of that bead in the punch skirt because I do like the punch skirt a lot, but this tournament I just went nude on them,
Yeah, that punch skirt out west is that's where it got started, But
yep.
That's a neat little tool.
Yeah, talk about that a little bit. Like, you didn't use a punch skirt in this tournament, or at least you don't have them on there now. What situations would you use a punch skirt? What situations would you not use a punch skirt? What's the benefits? What's it all about?
This, that, and the third.
So there's guys that will have a punch skirt year round, and in my eyes, and again, I'm not an expert, and I still haven't figured out why you go punch skirt and why not. But if the water was a little bit dirtier, I'd probably go with a punch skirt so it'd move more water, and it'd just silhouette a lot better under that shade. But the water where I was fishing was a lot clearer, So I just wanted a clean pitch, and I wanted it in that grass, in that hyacinth, and I was just comfortable with it. Sometimes in the spring, especially when you're mimicking bluegill, you want that bigger presence, a bigger silhouette to mimic one of those big bluegill. So that's what I think. That's my deal. But guys will throw a green pumpkin red or a red punch skirt on that and have a ball with it.
Now,
So
what about if if the fish are being weird or they're being tough on you? Is it always a beaver for you, or do you ever change to a more slender bait, something that gets through the mat a little easier, something with less bulk, less profile? Talk a little bit about those adjustments you might make during a punching bite.
I'll always mainly go to just regular beaver style. This new spicy beaver with the little tails.
Yeah, the curly
when
tails.
they're when they're really biting it, and they're more of a reaction bite on deeper mats, like in mats that are 8 foot or more. You have that fall, and they just kick, and they really do it. But on grass lines or mats that are like 4 to 6 feet deep, just the regular beaver's fine. But those deeper ones that guys will punch mats in like 20 feet of water under them, and that little fall like that will trigger them.
How deep? I don't remember hearing this. How deep were the fish coming off of those hyacinth mats?
The ones I was focusing on were probably at the deepest, probably like 7 feet.
Oh wow!
They weren't that deep.
What's the shallowest What's the shallowest you'll feel good about using a punching technique in?
On a higher tide, I'll go to the bank. If I need to get through a hyacinth mat and it's 6 inches of water, then I'll do that. But on a low tide, I want deep water near it. And